Hey kiddos, today we are going to be talking about function notation. Just wanted to remind you guys, because this is something that you should recall from Algebra 1 and 2. Function notation can be f of x, g of x, h of x, anything like that. But essentially what you need to understand is this equals y. So whenever you see function notation, this section here is equivalent to what the value of y is. Now the next thing is normally when you see function notation, usually instead of there being an x, there's usually a number value. What that's telling you is that the value of x will be equal to whatever number that is. All right, so let's get started. All right, so given that f of x is 4x squared minus 2x, and g of x equals 2x, we're going to find the answers to these two. So notice number 1 uses the f of x value, so therefore we're going to use this equation or this expression to get our answer. Now, I took the time to write f of x underneath because I need to write down what the value of x is equal to. It just makes my life easier. And x is equal to negative 2. So now all I have to do is actually plug it in. So I'm going to write down the expression that we're using, which is 4x squared minus 2x. And all we're going to have to do is substitute the value of x where we see x. And the x is equal to negative 2. So notice that's why I'm going to place the negative 2's in those parentheses because I'm substituting. And now we solve. Negative 2 squared is 4, so 4 times 4, and then negative 2 times negative 2 gives me a positive 4, plus 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 4 gives us a grand total of 20. So that would be our final answer. Now let's go to number 2. Same exact concept, but notice this is g of x. So we have to use the other expression given to us, which is 2x, okay? So I'm going to identify what the value of x is, which according to this, x equals negative 1. We're using the expression of g, so I got 2x. And then all we have to do is plug in the value of x, which is in fact negative 1. So 2 times negative 1 equals negative 2. All right, be sure that you draw a box or something like that to so that I can easily identify your answers when I check this. All right, moving on. All right, notice it looks like it's getting a little bit more complicated. We're using the exact same expressions as before, so notice I'm just adding it to the slide so I don't have to keep flipping back and forth. But one thing that I want to caution you of is we have both f and g involved. You always want to do what's inside first, okay? Kind of following a order of operations. So PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We always do P parentheses, so we're going to do what's inside parentheses first. All right, so that's the g of x that we're going to deal with. So g of x, so x in this case is going to be equal to 3. G of x is 2x, that's the expression. But we know x is equal to 3. So really you have 2 times 3, which equals the 6. Now that's not our final answer though, okay? Now what we have done is now change this into an f of x problem, or f of 6, because that's the result that we got when we did the g of 3, okay? So now we're using f of x, and we now have that x equals 6. So we're going to plug it into the expression 4x squared minus 2x. So when we substitute that in, you would get 4 times 6 squared minus 2 times 6. Okay? So 6 squared is 6 times 6, 36. 36 times 4 equals 144. And then the negative 2 times 12 is a minus 12. So 144 minus 12 would result in the answer of 132. Sorry, I feel like I got the sniffles. All right, next problem, same concept, okay? But notice this time the inside is the f of x. So that's what we're going to have to do first. And based on this, we know that the x is going to be equal to -1. So remember, we're using the f of x first because that's inside of those parentheses. So we have the expression 4x squared minus 2x that we're going to substitute into first. All right, so we get 4 times -1 squared minus 2 times -1. All right, -1 squared is -1 times -1, which is +1. 4 times +1 is 4. -2 times a -1 gives me a +2. So you get 4 plus 2, which equals 6. Now remember, you're not done because now you have to deal with the g of x part. So really, we're turning this into a g of 6 problem because that was the result that we got here. So based on that, we know that we're going to be substituting in 6 for the value of x. Now remember, the expression changes. We're using the g of x expression, which is 2x. So essentially, when we substitute in the 6 for x, you get 2 times 6, and 2 times 6 results in answer of 12. All right, moving on. I want you guys to attempt number 5 on your own. It's just like the previous 2 problems that we did, okay? So make sure that you take time to identify what is the first value that you're going to be substituting in for the g of x part. And then don't forget, you have to substitute that answer into the f of x part. So I'm going to move on to number 6. Now, on number 6, if you haven't already noticed, there are absolutely no numbers. Uh-oh. So, in this case, we're just going to do exactly what they're telling us to do. And when we break this down, if we can combine any like terms, then that's all we're going to have to do. So we're not going to end up with a number value for the answer in this situation since they don't give us a number. Okay? So it's saying f of x plus g of x is essentially what this means. So all we're doing is we're taking our f of x expression and we're adding it to our g of x expression. So pretty straight up. So you have your f of x expression, which is 4x squared minus 2x, and we're going to add the g of x expression, which is 2x. So like I said, all you're looking to do here is see if you can combine like terms. Well, hopefully you see that you have x squared, which there's no other x squared, so that doesn't combine with anything. Then I have this -2x, and I do have another term that has just an x, so we can actually combine those together. So that will come down because we're not combining it with anything, but a -2x plus 2x ends up canceling out to 0, so we're actually only left with the answer of 4x squared. All right, so kind of continue on that same thing. I notice when I look at our problem on number 7, again, there's no number, okay? So therefore, I know my answer is not going to be a specific number value, all right? So in this case, I see a minus sign. So what we're doing is f of x minus g of x, all right? So we're going to take those expressions. So I got 4x squared minus 2x, that's f of x, and we're going to subtract g of x, which is 2x. So again, all I'm looking to do here is combine like terms. 4x squared doesn't combine with anything because there's no other x squares. The -2x here combines with the other 2x because they both have just an x. So I'm going to bring down what's in front, 4x squared. And now here you have a -2x minus 2x, which results in a -4x. You cannot go any further. Those will not combine because the x has a squared in one term and not a square in the other. So that would be our final answer. Now the next problem, number 8, I want you to do on your own as well. Notice it's very similar to number 7, but as we all should know, in subtraction, order does matter. So you may get a different possible answer. I will also warn you that you will have to distribute a -1 because the f of x term goes second and it has 2 values. So essentially your problem will look like this. 2x minus, and because it has 2 terms, you have to put it inside of parentheses when you rewrite it, which means that you have to distribute here this -1 here to get to your final answer. So that was just a helpful hint. Word. All right, so number 9, it's now still no number value given to us, so we're still going to have not a actual number value as a final answer. This time, F and G are side by side, which tells me that this is a product problem, or aka multiplication. So we have f of x times g of x. All right, now anytime I do multiplication, it's always just best to put it all in parentheses. So 4x squared minus 2x, close parentheses, and you're multiplying that with 2x. So it's kind of a distribution problem in a sense here. 2x times 4x squared. All right, deal with the numbers first. 2 times 4 is 8. X times x squared, that would be a total of 3 x's, so that's x to the third power. All right, now let's distribute the 2x one more time. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And then x times x gives us 2 x's, so that's x squared. Notice you cannot combine these two values together because one has x cubed and one has x squared. So this would be our final answer for f of x times g of x. Number 10. This one is a division problem, okay? That's clearly noted by the fraction bar right here. So we have f of x being divided by g of x. All right, so when we write this problem out, we would have 4x squared minus 2x divided by 2x. Now, the first thing that you have to do with the top value, okay, is we actually have to factor it. So notice we're pulling on prior knowledge here, first unit, okay? So you should always look, when we're going to factor, we should always look to see if there is a GCF, okay? So is there anything that they have in common? Hopefully you know that the numbers 4 and 2 do have a number 2 in common, okay? And they actually both have x values, and they only have 1 in both. So I'm going to deem that the GCF is 2x. So if I take that out, 2x. Now, what goes back inside is a 2x here minus 1. And that's going to be all divided by 2x. Now, when we work this out and we divide, notice the 2x in the numerator and the 2x in the denominator, they're actually going to cancel each other out. So all we're left with is 2x minus 1, which you cannot combine those terms. So that would actually be our final answer. All right, now notice we've got a little curveball thrown at us. Now instead of having just an x here, they're actually giving us a number value. So now we're going to basically still write out what we've done before, because that's going to give us our whole entire expression that we're going to have. And then all we're going to be doing is plugging in the value of 0 in for our x. Okay, so notice what you should see here is that x is going to be equivalent to 0 in both of our expressions when we plug them in. Okay, so let me write this out. We have f of x first, so that's 4x squared minus 2x, and we're adding it to the g of x, which is 2x. Then all we're going to do is substitute in the value of 0 for x. So you get 4 times 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 2 times 0. All right, well, 0 squared, 0 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. Minus 2 times 0 is 0. Plus 2 times 0, which is 0. So notice the answer here is going to be 0. All right, now let's look at number 12. Same concept, but this time, okay, so you have f of x being added to g of x, and they give us the number value that we're going to be working with is 4. So you have f of 4 plus g of 4. And yes, I know I'm writing a lot, and I do expect you to do it all. Yay, I know, be happy. So what we are going to be doing is plugging in the value of 4 for our x. So let's write this all out. You got 4x squared minus 2x plus 2x, okay? And we're going to substitute in 4 for the x value. All right, so now let's break down our math. 4 squared, 4 times 4 is 16. So you get 4 times 16 minus 2 times 4 is 8 plus 8. Okay, so question is 4 times 16 is 64. So you get 64 minus 8 plus 8. Actually, technically, those will cancel each other out. So our answer then is going to be 64. All right, very similar to the previous problems. The only difference is now we have f of x minus g of x, okay? And this time they're telling us the value is 2. So basically it's f of 2 minus g of 2, where x is equal to 2. So we're going to be substituting in 2 for the value of x. So let's write out our entire expression, which is 4x squared minus 2x minus 2x. Please don't be lazy, because this is where a lot of you guys are going to make mistakes, because you're not going to take the time to actually write this down, and then you're going to plug it into the wrong places and then have utter chaos for something that's very simple. So 4 times blank squared minus 2 times blank minus 2 times blank. And what goes in the blank is the value of 2, because that's what x is. All right, now to do the basic math. 2 squared, which is 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16, minus 4 and minus 4. So you get 16 minus 4, which leaves you with a total of 8. All right, 14, very similar, same exact situation. And guess what on your own? Yay, I know you guys can do this. I kind of already wrote down the beginning part for you. Okay, so what you should recognize here is that your x value is equal to 4. And be sure to have all these answers and that you have them boxed or circled so that way it's easy for me to see them when I check for your notes. Ciao!